Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to build a conceptual whiteboard diagram of the human heart so you can absolutely nail drawing and labeling it for your Class 10 science exams. Now, if you've been staring at your textbook and feeling, well, totally overwhelmed by the transport system, don't worry, we're going to break it down and construct it step by step. Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to start with the ultimate biological question here. Why do mammals and birds even need such a complex, separated heart system in the first place? Before we draw a single line, we really have to understand the biological purpose of what we're actually looking at. So, here's our blueprint for today. We'll cover the heart's vital role, map out the four chambers, label the major blood vessels, trace the pulmonary and systemic circulation paths, and wrap it all up with a double circulation summary. Section 1. The heart's vital role, fueling warm-blooded animals. So, the crucial point here is that humans, mammals, and birds have seriously high energy demands. We need to maintain our body temperature no matter what our living conditions are, and that requires a highly effective circulatory system. To generate all that energy, our cellular respiration has to be incredibly efficient. And to do that, we need a massive, uninterrupted supply of oxygen. It's absolutely vital to maintain a strict separation between blood that's rich in oxygen and blood that's lost its oxygen. That's exactly why, when you're drawing this out, that strict physical wall right down the middle of the heart is literally your most important structural line. Moving on to Section 2, the four chambers, and setting up our diagram. When you actually start drawing, you'll want to map out the top receiving chambers first. Those are the atria. Then, place the heavy-duty pumping chambers, the ventricles, right below them. You can kind of think of the atria as the waiting rooms where blood first enters the heart. Then, those ventricles down below, they're the thick-walled muscular pumps that forcefully push the blood out to the rest of the body. Getting this top-to-bottom orientation right is your very first step. Oh, and a quick tip, when you're drawing, make sure to give those bottom ventricles much thicker walls than the top atria. That perfectly shows off the difference in muscle mass to your examiner. Now, to maintain that strict separation we just talked about, you've got to remember this golden rule for your labels. The right side only handles deoxygenated or impure blood, while the left side is dedicated entirely to oxygenated blood. This left-to-right division is basically the heart's way of ensuring that the deoxygenated blood returning from your body never, ever mixes with the fresh, highly oxygenated blood coming from your lungs. It's just a really elegant solution to our high-energy needs. And hey, here's a pro tip for your exam. If you're allowed to use colored pens, always draw the right side arrows in blue for deoxygenated blood and the left side arrows in red for oxygenated. It makes it super clear. Section 3. Labeling major blood vessels, the entry and exit points. Okay, so these four major vessels are absolutely critical. They're exactly what your examiner is going to be looking for, since they represent the vital entry and exit points of this whole transport system. First up, you have the vena cava. This acts as the main conduit bringing deoxygenated blood from the various parts of your body back into the heart. Then you've got the pulmonary pathways. One takes the impure blood out to the lungs to get oxygenated, and the other brings that freshly oxygenated blood right back. Finally, we label the aorta. This is the massive exit pipe that pumps all that rich, oxygenated blood out to nourish your entire system. When you're labeling your drawing, make sure you show the vena cava feeding into the top right and that massive aorta arching out from the top left. All right, Section 4, the pulmonary circulation path, our trip to the lungs. So let's draw your first set of arrows starting right at the right ventricle. Go ahead and trace this path on your diagram. Blood that has lost its oxygen gets pushed from the right ventricle to the lungs to get reoxygenated and then drops back into the left atrium. This first independent loop, it's all about reloading. The right ventricle pumps the deoxygenated blood out. Once it actually reaches the lungs, carbon dioxide is swapped for oxygen. Now that it's oxygen-rich, it travels back to the heart, entering through the left atrium, completely ready for the next phase. Section 5. The systemic circulation path, nourishing the body. Now for the second loop, draw your arrows flowing from the left ventricle. The powerful left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood out through the aorta, and eventually, the vena cava conduits the deoxygenated blood back into the right atrium. Here's how it flows. The blood transfers from the left atrium down to the left ventricle, which gives it a massive squeeze, sending it surging through the aorta to literally every cell in your body. After those cells take the oxygen they need, the now deoxygenated blood circles right back via the vena cava into the right atrium. The whole shebang starts all over again. Which brings us to Section 6, the double circulation summary, tying it all together. Creating a mental matrix of these paths is honestly your ultimate study guide. You want to perfectly contrast the pulmonary loop going through the lungs with the systemic loop heading out to the entire body. If you can just recreate this logic table in your head, drawing the diagram becomes incredibly intuitive. You literally just map the pulmonary loop starting at the right ventricle and ending at the left atrium, and then cross over to map the systemic loop starting at the left ventricle and returning to the right atrium. It's like a giant puzzle clicking into place. Now, if you're asked to define this entire process on your exam, write down this exact definition to guarantee maximum marks. Ready? Double circulation means, in a single cycle, blood goes twice in the heart. Yep, it's that simple. It goes through once for the pulmonary journey to the lungs and a second time for the systemic journey to the body. This strict separation is absolute genius, and it's the defining feature of the mammalian transport system. So, as you put the finishing touches on your diagrams, ask yourself, could humans have ever survived across the globe, in freezing tundras and scorching deserts, without this strict double circulation dividing our heart in two? Well, the answer is tied to our very existence as mammals. Keep this flow in your head, practice drawing those labels, and you are for sure going to absolutely nail your life processes exam. Keep up the great work.